Why is efficiency important to a business? By the end of this video, you're going to understand how efficiency can make or break an organization. First, we'll discuss if efficiency is even important for all businesses. Is it? We'll see. Next, we'll talk about some of the benefits of efficiency that you may not have considered. And then lastly, I'm going to equip you so that you can start to identify inefficiencies in your own organization. You ready to get started? Let's go. So what is efficiency? Efficiency is the often measurable ability to avoid wasting money, resources, energy, efforts, and time while performing a task. So at the end of the day, efficiency eliminates waste, and there's many different types of waste. I think it's pretty obvious why most businesses would benefit from not being wasteful. But then the question we have to ask is, do all businesses need to be efficient? And it might surprise you to find out efficiency is not a number one goal of all businesses. Let's take a look at some of the businesses that aren't necessarily judged based on efficiency. Think about artistry. When you have someone create a painting for you, you're not usually putting it on a quick timeline. We don't judge artists by how quickly they produce work. Even me in my home, I recently had a renovation where I added a library to my house. I wasn't rushing these people. I wanted the items to come out great. I wanted the Amish bookcase people to put these incredible, beautiful touches on my bookcases. So it wasn't something that you rush. When it comes to artistry, you almost value it more if it takes longer, because the perception is the longer art takes to create, the more valuable it should be. That's one of the reasons why people bulked outside of the technology world at NFTs, non-fungible tokens. When they saw people buying digital frogs and monkeys that were created very quickly in batches, people said, it's not worth that. I don't even care if it's one of a kind. Now, I'm not debating whether NFTs do or don't have value. We can talk about that on another video, and we will. But my point is, the perception is if you can create something very quickly on a sheet of paper, sketch it out, that's going to be worth one thing. But if that exact same person who did that sketch was an artist, and it took them 12 weeks to create a beautiful masterpiece of paint, people would pay a great deal more for that because it took more time. So certain forms of artistry do not benefit from efficiency. Along those same lines, one-of-a-kind works. Let's say that you have an outfit that's made that's one of a kind, or anything that's made for your home or your car, whatever else that's sculpted and made one of a kind. Typically, that's not something that's valued based on how fast it's created. It has greater value based on how slowly. Same thing with bespoke products. When we think about these products that are made, maybe skincare by an artisan, and they talk about their process of making the soap or their process of making the shaving cream, we're not judging how valuable it is by how fast they create it. Same thing with chefs. We're not judging by their speed. Now, that doesn't mean there's not limitations on these things, but there are many things that are valued more when they take more time. The last thing that doesn't necessarily benefit from efficiency, or isn't at least judged by it, are mission-driven organizations. For instance, if you're trying to lift someone out of poverty, yes, there might be limits, but we understand you're taking people through a process. It's not just a matter of taking them from this particular problem and tomorrow putting them in a different position, because you have to change behaviors, circumstances, and environment. So I'm putting all this out there to say that while efficiency is important to the vast majority of businesses, there are actually benefits that are harmed by focusing on efficiency over different results. So we have to understand what our purpose is. Here's my question for you though. Have you recently used a business that was not efficient? I recently had a very strange experience with a telecommunications company where we had an outage in my area, and I was communicating with them via chatbot. Now, this was not an AI chatbot, I'm positive, because it would have been better if it was an AI chatbot. This is someone who obviously spoke a different language, which isn't always necessarily a problem, but in this particular instance, it really hindered their understanding of what was happening to me. And so I had this 20-minute back and forth conversation where the problem not only wasn't solved, but what they suggested would happen never followed through. What we're seeing though is with the rise of generative AI, Brazil was one of the first companies to start implementing generative AI into their banking chatbots. So many of their organizations started using generative AI for their banking chatbots. As a result, what they saw Unlike when we call into telecommunications companies, we have to push all these buttons to get to the next robot. With them, they saw that customer wait time decreased dramatically. The average chat was completely responded to and rated within 4 to 5 minutes. They saw that their customer experience ratings went up to over 90%. Not only that, they found that the chatbots were more accurate than human beings in providing the information their customers needed. And so much of this technology, like generative AI, it's only as good as the amount of data it's trained on. So it takes a very large amount of entries to ensure that it can give accurate feedback. But once you do invest in that level of efficiency, I know for my recent case, I would have much preferred to interact with generative AI than with the human who really couldn't understand what my needs were or my circumstance. Speaking of understanding needs, I certainly create these videos with the intent to understand what you're needing. If you're seeing any topic that has not been discussed that you would like for me to touch on when it comes to future-proofing your growing businesses, please take a moment and put your comment in below. I would love to see what you want to hear about. Let's talk about some of the benefits of efficiency that you may or may not have thought about. Number one, and this one you probably have, are cost benefits. Obviously, when we're more efficient, having less waste typically means we're wasting less money. But did you know that efficiency can also boost employee morale? So for the employees that you have in the office, many of them don't like doing repetitive tasks that can be automated. But when they feel like they're making a difference and they're seeing that the workflow is moving great, they tend to feel better about their workplace as well. So employee morale can actually be impacted by efficiency. Also, I'm sure you've been in workplaces before where you've seen processes and you were like, this is so stupid. Why are we doing all of this? This is not moving us along. This is a waste of time. Waste makes employees feel less happy in the workplace, and so we can definitely boost morale by increasing efficiency. Efficiency can definitely give you a competitive advantage. So let's say that you make X widgets and you have a competitor that makes Y widgets and you're direct competitors. If you can ship your widgets within 24 hours and it takes them 2 weeks to ship their widgets, I think you can see how you might have a unique competitive advantage. Being efficient can also help with sustainability because by having less waste, it means that you have more resources that you can dedicate to things like research and development and innovation. Also, efficiency is one of the key pieces of scalability. It's very hard to scale an organization if it's inefficient. And last, efficiency can definitely help with risk management. By having your processes checked and ensuring that you're not having a great deal of waste, it lessens the opportunities for you to have things happen that are unexpected and not having the resources to deal with it. So how can you find inefficiencies within your own organization right now? There's some pretty easy ways. Number one, start with your team members. Start with the frontline people. What are you seeing that isn't working? Are there things that you think that we could do better, faster? Be open and leave open-ended questions and make sure that you have an organizational culture that welcomes their input where they're not scared to criticize a system that might have been someone's pet project that's high up on the food chain. Ask your team. Number two, ask your clients if they're seeing inefficiencies. Maybe they're seeing the way that you handle something doesn't quite work for them or could be improved. I often see that with companies that I interact with, and from time to time, I'll share with them what I see. I recently had an incredible person help me plan a party for one of my family members, and I noticed something that she was doing in her company, and we worked together a few times, and she was excellent. And I said, hey, have you thought about using this type of system? It would enable you to collect RSVPs much faster. It would certainly shave hours off of your time. So if you're open, allow your customers to give you feedback. They love you, they're invested in you. They want you to do better. You can also compare your numbers to that of your competitors. Are you seeing outputs that look a little bit different? What is it you're seeing your competitors are doing compared to where you're at? And then lastly, process mapping. Now, it's not sexy, but process mapping is simply taking yourself through the process. So maybe when someone places an order, what happens next? You're drawing arrows to go through the process. When you create a process map, oftentimes you start to see, well, that doesn't make sense. This just bounced this way and bounced back before coming down to this level. So take the time to actually map out what goes on when someone places an order in your organization. Speaking of mapping processes and being strategic and planning what you want to happen, I have another tool for you that was created just for you. You'll notice in the description of this video, there's a link to download the Future Ready Playbook. This playbook is chock full of activities and worksheets that'll help you future-proof yourself, your career, and your organization. Go ahead and download it today.